Hi, I'm Sage Reader. Today I'll be discussing the game Brutal Legend. The game was released on October 13th, 2009, developed by Double Fine and published by Electronic Arts. This game is important to me personally and has influenced a number of my private works and interests. The game has a lot of bumps, but culminates in a charming and unique product. Let's get into it.
The 2007 issue of Game Informer has a quote from Tim Schafer himself, the lead designer of the game, where he lays out the basic premise of Brutal Legend. There's something about roadies I've always liked. They're kind of like rock stars, in that they live the rock and roll lifestyle. But they don't live it from a place of privilege up on a pedestal. They live it down in the trenches. They're getting the work done, they're wiring the amps. They still live in this fantasy world of rock and roll. There's something noble about that. They don't get all the glory, they make it all happen. A roadie is a hero that doesn't fit the modern world. He wants to do big King Arthur type stuff. What if that guy got a chance to be that kind of hero? He could enter this sort of fantasy world, but he could bring his Camaro and his music with him, making a world for that guy. That's really what this game's all about. It's about a roadie named Eddie Riggs. This game follows the protagonist, Eddie Riggs, as he's placed in an unfamiliar world, but one where he finds that his skills are more useful than ever.
I find that the core combat and real-time strategy elements of Brutal Legend work well, though many players were actually displeased with the strategy component of the game. I believe this is more so because the game did a poor job of advertising this aspect rather than the actual way that these sections play out. However, in these strategy segments, I find that the radial menu is quite difficult to control, at least on PC, my platform of choice. I cannot speak for the difference when playing on console, though I imagine this would feel much better with a joystick. The racing segments are the game's biggest struggle, with the missions that I struggle most on being those involving the car. This is quite a few of them.
In his review of the game, Mike Fahey stated one of his qualms. The vocal work in Brutal Legend is amazing. That doesn't mean I want to listen to the same 3 or 4 phrases over and over again. Several of the story missions in the game had me gritting my teeth in frustration, as the characters repeat themselves over and over as I desperately tried to complete my objectives before going insane. Fahey, 2009. This repetition of can phrases is definitely an element of the game. Players likely hear the same voice lines many, many times, especially if they struggle with certain missions, as I certainly did. However, I found that it added to the quirky charm of the game, in a way. My friend and I have developed an in-joke with the phrase, "Hi Eddie," that one of the units in the game would often say. Regardless, for most players, this is likely to detract from the game.
The post-game content consists of side missions that are generally easy, the more difficult ones of course being racing missions, and a tedious mess of collectibles. The game gives you the slightest bit of help with an item that will direct you towards these collectibles, but only if they are close by. The repetitiveness of many voice lines can be grating, especially when certain missions will likely require a series of attempts to complete. Even with the map created by other players, 100% completion is something I've never had the perseverance to reach. Another qualm I personally have with the game is that it altogether fails to explain how some of the collectibles can be obtained. The game also has a multiplayer mode, where you will face against another player in a real-time strategy battle, using one of the game's 3 factions on one of many maps. This facet of the game still has a small community presence on Steam, though it is difficult to get into because they are all far more experienced with the game mode. Aside from this, you may play instead against an artificial intelligence opponent at one of several difficulties. The multiplayer element is certainly not the main appeal of the game today. What really makes the game special is its atmospheric elements. The game's soundtrack consists of 107 tracks from 75 different bands, all handpicked by Double Fine's lead developer Tim Schafer and the game's music director Emily Ridgway. It includes classic heavy metal, industrial, black, and doom, in simple terms. I could go on about metal genres for far too long. These influences also have a huge impact on the aesthetic of particular in-game factions. The game world at large is entirely inspired by elements of metal culture. I draw particular attention to the sky, always decorated with extreme and surreal weather elements, such as a massive twister or a moon that looks like that first scene in Hellboy. Much of it is designed to look like a speed metal album cover. The voice cast features a number of huge figures as well, including Motorhead's Lemmy Kilmister, rest in peace, Ozzy Osbourne of Black Sabbath, Rob Halford of Judas Priest, and Lita Ford, as well as a huge number of other cameos. It's extremely apparent that the game is a love note to a number of things. It also features an original score, which is subtle and pleasing, and always fits well in the stunning environments of the game. It has a visual style that I feel could be timeless, with a small influence from Double Fine's other production, Psychonauts. In summary, I find this game to be a unique and extremely charming experience, though often bumpy in its gameplay. It is something that I find myself going back to often, and I would definitely recommend it to anyone interested in metal music and culture.